All right, another day with Women on the Move Book Club. It is Thursday, January the 5th. The year is 2023. So happy New Year, everyone. We are excited to kick off the year with another book. And let's start with introductions. I'm Cindy.
I'm Pam.
I'm Vivian.
I'm Melody.
I'm Erica.
And Tammy just stepped away, and it's six of us tonight. So you're going to get to hear about another awesome book. And I'm going to turn it over to our host tonight, who is Vivian, and she'll tell you the title of the book, the author, and then we're going to follow her lead. So Vivian, take it away.
Good evening, everyone. The name of our book is The Alice Network, and the author's name is Kate Quinn. And I'm going to just go over a little bit about what the story is about, and then I'm going to I'm going to also say whether I liked it or didn't like it. And then I'm going to ask you to give me your input. After you give me your input, I have a few questions. I looked up some discussion questions that they have online, and they were pretty interesting. So I want to share those with you. So the book is about a young American young lady named Charlie Sinclair, and she's pregnant. She's 19 years old. She's a college student, and her mother is taking her off to Europe to have I want to say an abortion, I guess, and to get rid of it. But Charlie takes off in a different direction and tries to find her cousin Rose, who she feels is alive, but was told that she's dead. This takes place in 1947. And it's right shortly after World War II. And in her quest to find her cousin, she meets people that become a part of her life, and they help her to track down or try to track down her cousin. And the story takes on a very different picture then, because unbeknownst to her, the person that she first contacted happened to be a spy that was during that time. So I want to say whether I liked it or not. I did not like this book at the beginning. I felt like, first of all, this little young girl was what we would call fast and privileged, because she just did what she wanted to do. And to me, she seemed like she was headstrong, hard-headed, and was I say privileged because she had money. And then I find out, and I didn't like the fact that she's smoking, she's drinking, she's doing all kinds of things that we say is a no-no now. And I find out that I become interested in this book as I went along, and I really got involved and really started not wanting to put the book down because of the things that took place. I liked it a lot after I finished reading it, and I want to read the next book that Kate Quinn wrote. So that's where I am with it. And so I would like to hear from you now.
Okay, I'll go ahead and go first. I liked the book. I was not aware of the Alice Network being a real life spy network. I thought, wow, that's phenomenal. And to this day, it's like the most known and most effective female spy network that ever existed. I'd never heard of it. And so that part of history was profound. And you're right, Charlie was out there and she thought she could just do whatever she wanted to. But I love the way that her father to me was, he came across as weak because he didn't give an opinion. He just let the mom take care of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And the mom, I can understand back then the mom taking her away, we're going to get rid of this, so that you can come back and life can continue to go on. But I love the fact that Charlie kept toying with, is this what I want? I know it's going to make my life harder, but I love the fact that she stood up for herself and she went ahead and did what she felt was right. And you're right. Oh my goodness. When she met Eve, it was like, woo, life really opened up. And then, the gentleman who was her driver, her friend, it was
Flynn.
like, yes, Finn, thank you for refreshing my memory, Finn. It was like, all the twists and turns, but I love the fact that the book kept going in and out of stories. It would bring the mom, because Charlie just leaves the hotel, leaves her mom. Her mom doesn't know what she's doing. She just leaves the hotel. And then the mom's looking for her. So then we don't hear anything about the mom for quite a while. Then Charlie runs into her. She's already connected with these other people who allow her to use her money, but then they're helping her. Here's this young girl who's in a predicament, but they don't know all of that in the beginning. But I love that part. And then the wild story that evolved
Unfolded.
and unfolded. It
Mhm.
was like, and then we learn about this Alice Network. So I really enjoyed the book, and it had twists and turns, and it was a hard topic, when you're thinking about a young girl who's pregnant in this day, at that time in the 40s. But I love the way the story took us through so many different characters, developed them. We got to see some hardships and some awful truths of the war and the spy network. But then it's like it ended on a beautiful note. So I love the fact that we went on a roller coaster ride with this book, but yes, it was very well written. So I enjoyed it. I'll give it a 2 thumbs up.
Okay. Who wants to go next?
I'll go next. I loved the book, loved it. That genre is right up my alley anyways. I love the historical fiction for World War II. That's a genre I didn't even know that I was gonna love till we started reading some books here in book club about them, and I find whatever I can in that genre and I love it. But I am one that I've read a lot of books, and maybe Cindy's the same way, maybe some of you are. It's easy to predict things. And so what I love about this genre is you can't really predict, I didn't know about the Alice Network either, and the twists and turns and things that these people go through, and you realize that women actually went through this, and praise God, we've never been called to do anything like that, for ourselves, our families, our country, but that these women and, the men and women that we read a lot about, they just do things you couldn't even imagine doing. And, what I read this like the day that Denise picked the book. I read it, so it's been a while, and so I had to kind of go in when I got the messages today that, oh yeah, it's book club. I kind of went back and read I was like, okay, so is it Marguerite? No, the one who that took on the lover to get the information. Whew, what she did, and oh my gosh, and that she would just, I mean, insane that she made it that far, and how evil that man was. And and the Charlie kind of kept it from being so over serious, right? Like she was kind of the balance in the book to kind of, she was serious, but she also still gave you a little break, to kind of, almost the comic relief, right, of the story, so that because there was so much to take in. And I had to go, when they told about the event that killed Rosie, I had to go and look that up, and that was a real event that really happened in history. And how horrific, and the way they told the story was just beautiful, and I loved it, couldn't put it down. I think I read it in a day or two, so it was awesome.
Okay, thank you. Who's next?
I'd like to go next.
Okay.
I thought it was an emotional roller coaster. There were so many things going on in the book that it just had so many things. There was, agony and joy and happiness and depression and anger and just so many different things going on throughout the book. But it was such a good story. It was well told. And I'm like Erica, I like switching back and forth between the two stories that kind of gave you a little bit of a break from what Eve was dealing with. I don't think I would be able to ever do anything like what Eve did. That's for sure. And I liked the ending. I thought it ended very well on a very high note, and that made it worth reading the book for sure. And, there are just so many characters that were well developed throughout, and what Erica was talking about, that event that happened, it was a true story. The woman that she spoke to, that woman really did exist, and she really did give testimony against, I guess, the officers that were in charge of that event that happened in that village. And I loved the book. It was just absolutely a really, really good read. I was sorry it was over. I was like, well, I could just keep going with this story. And the characters, I just enjoyed them so much.
That's one that you wish that it was a series, you know,
That's
so
right.
you can see what happened next.
Yeah,
Right.
right.
Okay.
But you said other books with her. I'm gonna have to go look her up.
Yes, yes, she
About it.
wrote a few other books, yes.
I'm gonna have to look those up.
I'll give you the names when I think I have them. Yeah, I have the names. Who wants to go next?
I'll go next.
Okay, Pam, thanks.
Okay. I love this book. I feel it was a great story. I feel great stories, and it was so much to learn about the ravages of war. These women were very brave. And I just think the main characters were all so different, yet they came together to make the story great. We've read several books about, I think, World War I and II, and what they did to people in those. And those people were, to me, were so resilient because they stood up and they fought for what they wanted, and they found a way to get what they wanted. And the way they treated, I remember when they were captured and they took them to, I guess, this prison, and the way they treated Violet, that was so inhumane.
Yes.
I think they literally did surgery on her when she was awake or something. And it's like, my gosh, did they really treat each other like that? But I guess so. It was a great story. And then how they developed Eve, telling about it was why she was who she was. You know, what had happened to her as a spy. She was recognized for it, but she never received her medals for it. She just was, and the way she helped Rose, you know, try to accomplish what she wanted, and then Charlie, and then Charlie, and then thank you. They throw Finn in there as the driver in his fancy car, you know, tootling him around, and they're trying to find all these things. But I think all in all, I really enjoyed the book, and there were times when I sat down to read it, I just had to keep sitting there, you know, forget the whole world, but I had to find out what was going to happen. These were very, very brave women.
Yes, they were.
I really did enjoy the book.
Okay, Melody.
Well, like you guys, I enjoyed it too. I love historical fiction because it's just, you know, it gives you kind of a little bit, it's like we all started looking into, oh, was it really an Alice network? And did this really occur? And I just love how she weaved the tale, and she used those three main characters, which are some of the three main characters in the Alice network as well. And I just like how she wove the story. And I think at first I was frustrated because it felt like it was jumping around a lot. But then it's like Erica said, you kind of needed that. You needed that balance and kind of like almost a reboot to go, oh, that's right. Okay, so here we are with this. And it's kind of like it just kept reminding you what was kind of occurring in both eras and different, and also looking at how things have changed and not changed, you know, that there still was the shame for the unwed mothers, and you know, also that women really weren't looked upon as well, they're looked upon as the weaker sex. And it was like, here these women did such great things. And you know, these high and mighty men who think they have everything in control. In reality, they're being spied on by, you know,
By women.
Amazing
stuttering women.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's what pushed Eve to do what she did, because she felt like she was of no significance because of her stuttering.
Correct.
And she wanted to show that she could do things and that she could be someone that they could depend on to
Mhm.
fulfill a job.
Mhm.
Okay,
But
so
they were passing on stuff and they weren't even acting on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what blew
Yeah.
my mind. I'm
That
like,
could have
well,
saved
I
even
would,
more
I
people.
would quit. I would say, well, if you aren't even going
Yeah.
to use this
Right.
information passing, why should I be risking my life?
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
it's
that's
just
true.
insane.
that goes back to how they viewed women, how they
Exactly.
viewed how women, they didn't trust what they were hearing.
Yeah.
Right.
And what was amazing is that she was able to keep her cool like that. And she, even though he did all those things to her, she still believed him when he said she was the reason that her friends were taken into custody and killed. And it didn't even dawn on her to doubt him in
Mhm.
all of that time,
Right.
that he
Knowing
was
the type of person he was.
malicious.
Right.
Yeah, like he was so awful and so evil that she never even one time doubted him, that she
Mm-mm.
didn't do that. Yeah.
Exactly. Renee Bordelon.
Renee, uh-huh.
Right. Renee.
But you know,
Mhm.
he started off by really pounding fear into her, by telling her, I can tell when you're lying, I can
Correct.
tell, and if you ever tell me a lie, I'll fire you and you won't be able to have food. And you know, he really put the fear in her, and she wanted so badly to do a good job that she went along with it and did what she could. So I have a few questions. I looked up online and I found some discussion questions from this book. First of all, female friendship is a constant theme throughout the Alice Network. Charlie Sinclair and Eve Gardiner began as antagonists, whereas Eve and Louise or Lily are friends from the start. How does each friendship grow and change over the course of events?
I'll take it with Charlie and Eve. When
Okay.
they first started, it's like Eve was a hard nut to crack. She was hard, but then Eve took in a stranger. So basically, I mean, she was very kind, even though she was really hard. But it initially started out as a stranger helping a stranger, but you make sure you get out of my house by tomorrow, So it's like, okay, Charlie's desperate, but then the next day it was okay that she wasn't gone. And then Finn played, but their relationship started out as strangers. And then it gradually grew to acceptance and then a respect and a love for each other. So it was beautiful how it evolved as Eve opened up.
Exactly.
Because Eve was, we didn't know what Eve had suffered, her disfigured hands. We don't know what that's all about. And we know that hurting people hurt people. So, she's got so much anger in her. And then, we learn at the end of the book that what she thought she had done, she thought that she had betrayed the Alice Network, but she hadn't. So that was Renee lying to her, but she believed it, like you said, Vivian. So that relationship, it was beautiful to see it unfold and how they really supported each other. Eve turned out to be like I won't say a mother, but almost like a grandmother figure or a big sister figure to her. And she really helped Charlie through her time, and someone who believed in her and helped her, even though she was tough and acted like, rah, 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 but bottom line, she did help. So it was beautiful to see that relationship unfold. And I think Charlie was good for Eve too, who was a recluse.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
And
Well,
Charlie
Lily
gave
brought her out.
Eve courage. Yes, Charlie gave Eve courage to look into her past
Mhm.
so she could get things quote unquote resolved.
Thank you. That's
You're
right.
welcome.
Erica, you were going to say something?
Well, Lily did the same thing for Eve early on.
Exactly.
She was the young one who didn't know what she was doing, and Lily came in and, really nurtured her and helped her through and helped her to grow. Obviously, they both handled it differently because of their experiences, but it was just kind of the same thing. I think she even says that Eve saw herself in Charlie, which probably intrigued her enough to keep going.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And I think Charlie grew to love Eve as a person that she respected, and the more she learned about her, the more she respected her, and the more she really felt connected to her. I think they were both kind of like adventurers, that wanted to do things, and Charlie learned from Eve after she found out all that she did.
It actually gave her courage to stand up to her mom.
Yes.
Yeah.
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 Okay, anyone?
I have to say the other relationship, the Violet, at first I wasn't sure. I'm like, oh, this one is like, she's, I don't know, it was hard. And she wasn't accepting of Eve. And I think she wasn't accepting of Eve because I think she wanted to she's one of those ones who just wanted to be friends with Lily. And she wanted to be the important person to a certain extent. And then, when she came back to say, and she wouldn't even talk to her, I thought, oh man, this relationship still never really changed, and then you start to see kind of one of the reasons why, but how she was prodded to go ahead and really see what did Eve do? What did she give up Lily? And she ended up helping her to
Find out.
To really find out. And so it's like, even though you have this like love-hate relationship, I don't know, women come through for each other.
But saying that, even though she didn't like Eve, she helped her with that abortion.
Yeah.
And because she had that medical experience and she didn't like her, but she helped her anyway, because I think of the connection of being in that network together.
Correct. Yes.
Yes. And even though you don't like someone, you're still understanding the value of someone.
Exactly. Anybody else? Okay, well, now I'll go on to question number 2. The young Eve introduced in 1915 is very different from the older Eve seen through Charlie's eyes in 1947. How and when did you see the young Eve begin to change into her older self? And what was the catalyst of those changes?
Can you repeat the last part?
How and when did you see the young Eve begin to change into her older self? And what was the catalyst of those changes?
Renee.
Yes, Renee, I think
Renee is the catalyst. Yeah.
Exactly. But she started out, she didn't have the self-confidence, but then this gave her an outlet to serve and to do something valiant, which she took on, and she did it extremely well. And then Renee, when all of that went awry and he discovered the Luger, the gun, in her place when she had gone away, then when he tortured her, I think that's when she changed internally, and then she became hard and crass. Plus, she thought that she had betrayed the network. So she carried around that guilt for 30 years.
Right.
Yes.
So I think that guilt, that's what made her turn, because he did everything, gave her drugs and everything, and, told her that she spilled the beans, but she didn't.
No.
So I think that's when, and then for him to mangle her hands,
Oh, that was
finger
horrible.
by finger, woo!
Ooh.
And for her to live every single day from then you can't get away from it. You know, you see your hands and you don't have use of your hands. It's like, whoa, that was cruel.
Mhm.
And that man that she was in love with, he killed himself.
Yes.
Yeah.
That certainly was added to her
That was the captain. Yes.
her downward spiral.
I was
Yes.
gonna say, I think it's that man that kind of helped her come into her, to help her to learn to have that strength in her, that she had to do all that she did. I think he brought a lot of that out in her. The
Exactly.
good part,
Captain Cameron.
yeah,
Yes.
of who
Uh-huh.
she was, he
Yes.
brought that out in her and showed her that she was more than someone who just stuttered, who had nothing to offer. Like, he believed in her, and not just the women, Lily and the
Violet.
Alice Network, but he really did.
And you know, actually her stuttering helped her to
Mhm.
get the job, and helped her to win Renee's trust, I think, because he felt like, well, you know, she's just a stuttering
Stupid.
idiot,
Yeah.
you know,
Right,
she
right.
can't be of worth anything. So
Mhm.
Right. That
helped.
worked. Her different ability worked to her advantage.
Exactly. Okay, the next question. Lily tells Eve to tell the truth. Much of this special work we do is quite boring. Did the realities of spy work surprise you compared to the more glamorous version presented by Hollywood?
Mm.
How do you think you would have fared working for the historical Alice Network?
Well, I couldn't have done it. That's for
I
sure.
couldn't have done it.
I couldn't have done it either.
That's
No.
deep.
No.
Yeah.
Especially
That
after she started sleeping with Renee and she
Ooh.
hated him, but then she
Correct.
started enjoying the sex, and she
Right.
hated the fact that she enjoyed the sex,
Right.
Yes,
you know, all for getting this information.
right.
Right. So she definitely took her work to heart and she did
Yes, she did.
everything possible. But you know what? It's like, I mean, I couldn't imagine doing anything like this. But just like these, the shows that where they go off into the wilderness, what are they called? And they have to stay for 90
Like
days
naked and
or,
Yeah.
afraid and
oh,
all that.
I mean, no. And then, oh no,
Frozen one.
snakes and bugs and they're getting eaten up.
No bad.
I couldn't do anything like that. But a lot of these women, it's like this was a way for them to bring honor to themselves, their families, their country, because women weren't looked at as anything. So with some of them, this was the only avenue, if it was presented to them, where they could do a job of real worth. And the war is going on, it's like, well, I may as well do that, or, we're going to die anyway. I think their thought process about life was different because there was so much destruction going on always. So then if you have a chance to be of some benefit, but whoa, for us on the outside now looking in, what we know, that, like Pam said, brave, courageous.
Mhm.
I can't
It's
even
all
imagine.
survival.
I don't
think
think
it's
I
all
could do that, Bernie. That was a lot. And the way they
Another
learned
thing,
how to- Go ahead.
another thing, here we live in the United States. We've never lived in a war
No.
torn country. And it made me think about the poor people in Ukraine right now,
Right.
what they're going through. Their
Yes.
whole lives are just completely upheaval. So
Yes.
it really makes you grateful for the life
Amen.
that you have.
Yes, it does.
Man, it does. Because it's like in Ukraine, and in any war, and oh gosh, you would think as intelligent as we are, we could find another way versus, well, I mean, we have wonderful minds. Can't we sit down and negotiate things? But it's all
Mhm.
about power and strength. And, men, I've got to beat you up. You have grown men who, if somebody looks at their wife, Ari, it's like they're ready to punch them. So it's like that fight stuff doesn't go away from them. But it's like, wow, so many people in all wars, it's like, one minute you have your home and the next minute you don't. You're
Yeah.
fleeing with just the clothes on your back. And I saw something, just recently on 60 Minutes where they were talking about the children who have terminal illnesses during
Yes,
this time.
Oh,
yes.
yes.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
Mhm.
I mean, it's horrific on all levels, but then when you have a child who's fighting for their life health wise and you can't get them the treatment, it's just
Yeah.
senseless. But
Yeah, I saw that special, and the First Lady of Ukraine reached out to all the First Ladies,
Mhm.
and they combined a network, women again, and were able to get help for those children and get them thrown out of there and get their meds. So women power again.
amen.
Mhm.
Right.
Okay.
Sorry.
Renee Bordelon is denigrated by his peers as a war profiteer and an informer. He sees himself as a practical businessman, pointing out that he is not to blame making money off the invaders or the tragedies like the one that happened that killed Rose, which happened on German orders. Did you see him as a villain or an opportunist? And do you think he earned his final fate?
Ooh, I'll go
Yes,
first.
yes to
He
all of
was a
that.
villain and he earned his final fate.
Yes,
Hallelujah.
yes,
He was evil, evil,
yes.
evil, evil.
Yes, he was a profiteer, but I mean, he was wicked.
And
Yes.
arrogant.
Yes, and
Yes.
nobody liked him.
No.
He
He
was
was arrogant to
nobody.
the end.
Yeah.
Yes, he was a mess.
He profited, but he could care less if he was because he was just as evil as the Germans. He could care less.
Exactly.
He was
True.
profiting off
Very
them.
true.
And he used them to his own gain, and
Yes.
he was just as bad. And
It was
Yeah.
both. He was both an opportunist and a villain. It just, there's no
Correct.
other way to put it.
yeah,
Exactly.
Correct.
You're
But
right.
he did the evil against his own people
Yes.
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 for
yes.
his own gain.
he's a traitor. He was
Yes,
awful.
correct.
Yeah.
And then he ran.
Yes.
And a coward. Yes, yes.
And
And then
isn't
when he
it
did it
ironic?
again.
Isn't it ironic that as evil as he was, he lasted for so long to
Mhm.
go from World War I to World
To
War
World War
II
II.
and to
Yes.
profit each time?
Correct.
Disgusting.
Yeah.
Okay, Eve loves Captain Cameron and hates Renee Bordelon, but her relationship with Renee is longer, darker, and more emotional. How is her hatred for him complicated by intimacy? How does his realization of Eve's true identity change him? And how do you think they continue to think and feel about each other during their 30 years of separation? And how did that affect their eventual climax? A lot of questions, but I think that everybody can give some input on that.
Exactly. I'll handle Vivian, you handled the intimacy, it was a love-hate. It's like, her
Exactly.
body had pleasure, even though, she was this was a
Mhm.
hateful situation, and she hated to have to do that, but then her body, still got pleasure from it. And at the very end, I think over the years, I don't think he thought much about her. He didn't care, but she carried pain and hurt in her life since then because he had no conscience, he had no feelings. I don't think he thought one way or another about her, but she carried the pain of the horrific what's it called, with torture that he
Yes.
did to her. She carried that every single day, and it limiting her lifestyle.
Right.
Well, she probably didn't ever have another man in her life after that either.
Right.
I think
But
there's some Stockholm syndrome, where you are that you fall in love sometimes with your abuser, that they're coming up with now. It was,
Mhm.
obviously wasn't a thing back then, but that was, I'm sure, something, keeps you
Mhm.
coming back to some, you hate yourself for it, but
But she did have a night with Captain.
Yes,
Yeah.
she did.
Remember?
But that was later, right?
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. Because he was married, right?
Oh,
Yes,
yes, he
correct.
was.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That was when he was
Yeah.
trying to convince her to get out, and she went back. And the way she went back was she got him to spend the night with her because she said she was afraid. And then when he went to sleep, she cut out.
Right,
that's
and
when
then
she was
right
like,
up, and then
okay.
she was discovered right after that by crazy
That's
Renee
right.
because he'd been to her room. So
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That's right.
it would have been better for her to stay.
Yeah.
Okay, so Finn and the Captain Cameron are parallels for each other. Both Scotsmen and soldiers with war wounds and prison terms in their past, acting as support systems for the women they love who go into danger. How are the two men different as well as alike? And how does Finn succeed where Cameron fails?
Finn wasn't married, so
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
helpful.
That was a big advantage.
Yeah.
He also didn't take advantage of her right away either.
Right.
I mean,
Correct.
you know,
Right.
he knew that there was more going on and needed to know more before he even entertained that idea. And I don't know, you have to have respect for him for that, because she basically was saying she threw herself at him. So,
Right.
you know, um, and the captain, although, you know, it was nice that they were able to connect. I can't help but feel like they should have known, they should have gotten her out of there sooner.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, I know that her intelligence was so good, but that, you know, all good things come to an end. And
Much of it's worth it.
it-
Yeah.
it would have been nice if they had just really, it would have registered that, hey, we're getting this great intel, which is it's too risky. We need to just, you know,
Right.
but
Cut it off. Yeah.
woulda, shoulda, coulda.
Exactly.
Plus, I also think Finn did not need Charlie. Cameron needed Eve.
Eve.
Yes.
Yes.
True.
He almost manipulated her feelings because he needed her to fit in this network, and he knew he couldn't have her, and you know, he wasn't completely innocent in all of that either. He had a wife, he had, he knew she was going to be in danger, he knew that she was going to stick out more, but he felt that he could use her to their
used-
advantage.
He used her innocence all around.
Yeah, yeah,
That, you
He
know, for
really
her to be
did.
a spy and also just everything. Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
And then
And
another thing,
like draw her in and then tell her, oh, but I can't have you, but oh, you could do this for us instead. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, sorry, I don't know who I interrupted.
and didn't the captain also he wasn't guilty of the crime that he went to jail for. It was his wife that was guilty.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
So he was
Took the rap.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Took the
Yeah.
rap for her. So I'm not going to ask more questions, but what I'm going to do is ask you, is there anything that we didn't cover that you had in your mind that you wanted to cover from this book?
Oh, there's one thing at the end, which is a beautiful highlight at the end when Charlie and Finn are getting married and then her parents are there. And then it's like the reunion day because, they wanted her to have a good life. And then Finn who gave him remember, he
Eve
always had really nice cars.
gave him the car.
Eve.
Yeah,
Right.
thank you, exactly. So at
Yeah.
the end, it was nice to see that her parents saw that she's going to be okay. And I was just glad to know that they had that reunion. And I was also glad that Charlie got closure knowing how Rose had died.
Yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
her parents weren't great either. Like, they were the ones that were like forcing her. I mean, she went her way because her parents were lying to her, didn't really care, care.
Well,
It
well,
just was, that was
the
sad.
the bottom line is she went the promiscuous way because she was trying to take care of her parents in the beginning, and they never recognized that she also was hurting over the fact that
Yeah.
her brother died.
Yes.
And, at some point, people, you know, they break. And she didn't break in the best way. But I think what was so hurtful in my opinion of this, and yeah, even after listening to her, yeah, I guess she could be categorized that, but for her dad to actually call her a whore,
Mhm.
that's just such
Mhm.
how can you come back from that?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
And you know what? She, like Eve, felt like she was a failure because she didn't help her brother. When her
Yes.
brother killed himself, she felt
Right.
like she failed him, and she had to prove to herself that she could do something to find her cousin and make good of finding
To
her
amend it.
cousin. Exactly. Now, another good thing that happened at the end to me was to find out how Eve was cared for, and she didn't know it, that the captain had actually had given her a stipend all those years to take care of her. Now that was beautiful. you
Right.
know. And then didn't he leave her the house as well?
I don't know.
I don't
I
remember
remember the
that.
house they put up for sale when they went to look for her. Her house that Charlie found her in, I think it had been put up for sale.
Okay.
I don't-
I can't remember exactly,
I
but
don't think they ever said much more about Eve because the house had been put up for sale. She gave Finn that beautiful car.
right. She put the house up for sale.
Eve did.
Yes, she did.
Right.
Yeah, Eve did.
And when she sold it, that's what she did with the money. Okay.
Exactly. And then I thought it was cool that Eve and Violet, their friendship, the two of them, they were going to travel the world
They
together.
got
So I
back
was
together.
exactly. So that was beautiful that neither of them had to be alone anymore.
Oh,
So
yes.
it healed. So in this book, the main relationships that had been torn apart, everything was healed. And then relationships that were up in the air, everything came together beautifully.
That's right. So I want to end with telling you guys that Kate Quinn, she has written 4 novels in the Empress of Rome saga and 2 books in the Italian Renaissance before turning to the 20th century with the Alice Network, The Huntress, The Rose Code, which I wonder if it's about Rose that, was Charlie's cousin, and The
Oh.
Diamond Eye. And all of her books have been translated into multiple languages. And she right now, she lives in San Diego with 3 rescue dogs and her husband.
Oh, awesome.
Yes, yes. She's not a very old woman. She's, I think, in her 40s.
Oh, very young.
Yes, yes. So thank you, ladies, for letting me, your newcomer, be your host for this evening, or your facilitator for the Alice Network. Thank you.
Awesome.
You did a great job. Thank
You're
you,
welcome.
Vivian.
Exactly. Thank you. So
You're welcome.
Vivian, you concluded this book club for us. So we appreciate the book and all of your questions and for the wonderful, detailed and in-depth conversation that we had. So thanks everybody for tuning in. That was the Alice Network.